Okay, so theories on transformation say the following. They would say affirmative action is legal compliance, and basically what it does is that it just opens the door. It opens the door to begin with transformation. The next step would be then to value differences, to have an open attitude, one that is more inclined to want to learn from others and to get to understand who others are and you know what their story is. Then you have this where we talk about strategically driven modified behavior. And that is more difficult to achieve, I believe, because it requires a conscious decision to come to terms with who you are and what your own issues are. And often we don't go there. We don't really go to a place where we ask, how come I feel uncomfortable around gay people? What is it about gay people that presses my button? What is it about women that makes me feel uncomfortable, successful women? Or what is it about men and the authority of men that takes me off as a woman? And very often, this has what we call a backstory. And often we don't go to the backstory. I've just shared my backstory with St. Mary's. And it's one of the things that I had to overcome for myself in order to feel I'm okay, you know, because I just felt I never fitted. You know, the school is doing much better now. I saw that recently they had a black head girl, you know, which is really phenomenal. But at that time, during the apartheid era, it is understandable that they were also grappling with issues of transformation. So I want to share this video.
Underneath an elegant surface, he has an adventurous spirit.
So in the years you worked at Wyatt Wheeler, you ever tell Charles Willie you were gay?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
You don't bring your personal life into a law firm. You're not supposed to have a personal life, really. Anyway, I did plan to tell Charles eventually, but then something happened at the racket club about three years ago. Somebody started telling some jokes.
What do you call a woman who has PMS and ESP at the same time?
I don't know, Roger. What do you call her?
A bitch who knows everything.
Walter, how does a faggot fake an orgasm?
He throws a quart of hot yogurt on your back.
So that really is the picture. You can relate to it, right? Somewhere, somehow, a lot of us have experienced this, where there is undertones of some ism, be it sexism, be it homophobia, be it whatever, you know, and you very quickly learn that you are not accepted, so you work around trying to conform and be that which everybody wants to see. And it's a hell of a difficult. If you're like me, you're consistently suffering from a back that is painful, from headaches, and those kind of things. And it won't last for long. It's that, you know, if you go back to those slides that I shared, an environment where you're looking at the top quadrant, where they've brought in people to meet the quota, but really the place doesn't feel like home. And often you find a lot of symptoms such as absenteeism. You find poor customer service, and as a result of that, customer loyalty is very low. You find a lot of conflict in the environment. You find the revolving door syndrome, as we call it, where people come in and they leave as quickly as they've come in. And often you hear people saying, but we can't retain them, you know, because they're always looking for the highest bidder. And That is a myth. My experience teaches me, and in recruitment, one of the things that we do is that when we're trying to recruit a candidate, when they say, I want to move for more money, then they're not the right candidate. We look for what we call a career wound. And a career wound is exactly what Tom Hanks suffered from. A career wound is when you don't want to be here anymore. That's your best candidate. Because let me tell you what happens with the people that want to move for money. The candidates that want to move for money will stay when they're made a counteroffer. But the person with a career wound can be offered as much as you want. They'll never take it. So my rebuttal to that is, if you say they're not staying because they're looking for the highest bidder, have you ever stopped to look at your environment? Because we spend most of our time in the workplace. And nobody wants to be earning millions with physiotherapy every single week, a psychologist every single week, to deal with that environment. And I think it's a cop-out for us as employers when we use that as an excuse for not transforming our organization. I think we need to look a little deeper as to what the real issues are. One of the things that we've done is that we have worked very hard to make sure that our environment is inclusive. And I remember when we were doing a probation discussion with one of our employees, she said, I'll work here even if you didn't pay me. And that for me was like the lights went on. I was like, we've got it. We've got the recipe. You know, when people feel there is a sense of purpose and this is aligned to who I am, work is more meaningful for them, and it's not really about the money. And I believe, even with transformation, that is the secret. That's what makes transformation successful in organization. At times we make excuses and we say, they don't meet the standard. You know, they're not living up to the standard. They're not performing up to the level that we want. And I've often, when speaking to journalists, when we launch the report, and they say, but are you asking people to lower the standard? And I say, please go and do a bit of research as to when standards were introduced. In South Africa, to a large extent, standards became a reality, especially in the public service, when affirmative action started. All of a sudden, there was this huge thing about people meeting a particular standard, and it became a way of keeping people out. Obviously, that's a sweeping statement, but to a large extent, I believe in most of these organizations that was the case. You found an environment where people would come in, and when the daughter graduates, she comes to work for the organization. You can't tell me that everybody in that family is absolutely phenomenal. And you know, you've got 5 families working in this department, and all of them are absolutely phenomenal. It's unreal to think that way. And I believe that standards became a huge issue when affirmative action was introduced. Then you also find very militant environments, and we know these. These are environments where you find that every now and then there's a huge issue, there's a strike, and there's all sorts of things, because a large portion of the workforce have just decided this far and no further. And we are going to fight. You know, and again, that's a very unproductive environment. That's an environment that is not conducive to productivity, and therefore nobody wants that. So one needs to sit and ask the question, why do we have this? Why do we have a strike ever so often? Why is it that people are on a go slow? And I believe that, you know, when we deal with the real issues, we get to the solution. So looking back at the previous research, my hypothesis and my experience says we need insight into the current culture and a plan of how to move forward. Because we've already said it is difficult to attain personal values, to attain this, because personal values are hard to change. And I believe personal values really define the culture of an organization. That's where you find the heart of an organization. That's where you find an organization either being open to transform or not being open to transform.